started with a smirk. Samantha Bee, seated confidently at her late-night desk, eyes sparkling under the studio lights, welcomed her audience with her usual bite. "Tonight," she said, grinning, "we have a very special guest, a walking headline for anyone still clinging to earnestness." The crowd chuckled on cue. Jonathan Roumie, yes, the actor whose recent roles have him playing everything from historical figures to, well, that one, is gracing us with his very important thoughts on how the entertainment industry is losing its soul. Backstage, Jonathan adjusted the cuffs of his dark blue blazer, hearing the laughter through the curtain. He didn't flinch. He knew what this was, not an interview but an ambush. He had seen it before. Hosts cloaked in irony, throwing punches dressed as jokes. But tonight he wasn't there to play their game. He was there to flip the board. The moment he walked out, the energy shifted. The audience clapped politely, but the undertone was clear. This wasn't his turf. Samantha, feigning civility, stood and offered a handshake. He took it firmly, eyes locked. "Jonathan," Samantha began, "it's great to have someone on the show who's already trending on Twitter, though not for the reasons you might like." Laughter. Applause. Cut to Jonathan, unblinking. "I guess that makes two of us," he replied smoothly. "Except I didn't need a writer's room to get there." The audience went silent for half a second, processing. Then a few gasps, some muffled laughs. Samantha smiled tightly. He leaned in just a bit, resting his hand on the arm of his chair. "Let me guess," he continued, "you are going to pretend to be the voice of reason, mock what I believe in, and then cut to commercial when I say something that actually matters." Samantha blinked, her rhythm interrupted. "Well, I was hoping we'd get to talk about. I don't know why your public persona is so consistently earnest." "Better that," he said coolly, than a monologue that hasn't been genuinely insightful since 2017. Boom! The audience erupted, not just in laughter, but in surprise. People didn't expect him to come swinging. Not here, not on B's stage, but he was just getting started. Samantha shifted in her seat, tapping her cue cards against her knee, a reflex when control starts slipping. She let out a forced laugh, eyes scanning the teleprompter before abandoning it altogether. "Okay," she said, "so we're skipping the warm-up and going straight for the roast." "Fair enough." Jonathan crossed his legs, leaning back slightly, but with the presence of someone fully in command. "You invited me here," he said, "so let's not pretend you weren't expecting pushback. Or did you think I'd smile and nod while you ran through recycled punchlines about anyone who dares to be sincere?" Samantha chuckled, less amused now. "Wow. Okay. Well, I guess you're here to tell us that Hollywood is broken and that you're the spiritual guide." "No," he replied sharply. "I'm here to tell your audience that shows like this are part of the reason it's broken." The studio tensed. That wasn't a line they were used to hearing, not on this side of the screen. Samantha raised an eyebrow. "Let me guess. Entertainment is the opiate of the masses now." Jonathan didn't miss a beat. "Not all entertainment, just the ones that pretend to foster discourse while doing stand-up in a sequin jacket." The audience murmured. A few claps, more surprise than support, but it was growing. "Okay," Samantha said, laughing, but now clearly on edge. "If I'm so bad at this, why agree to come on?" Jonathan smiled, a sharp glint in his eyes. "Because I knew you'd try to laugh me off, and I wanted people to see what happens when you run out of jokes." Samantha's mouth opened, then closed. No comeback loaded. The camera caught the hesitation. Jonathan had turned her own stage into his, one line at a time. He shifted again, voice calm but piercing. "Look, Samantha, we may disagree on everything, but I came here knowing full well what you try to do. What you didn't expect is that I'd come prepared." The audience was quiet, not hostile, not cheering, just listening, really listening. And that was the moment he knew he had cracked the room. The crew behind the cameras exchanged quick glances. This wasn't going as scripted. Samantha was supposed to land a few light jabs, get a laugh, pivot to a commercial, and move on. But Jonathan had flipped the format, and now the audience wasn't just witnessing a segment, they were watching a power shift. "So what exactly do you think this show is, Jonathan?" Samantha asked, sitting back now, her tone a mix of defense and curiosity. "Because millions of people watch it and don't seem to mind the jokes." He raised his eyebrows. "Right? And millions watch The Bachelor too. Doesn't mean it added anything to national discourse." The audience laughed, this time not at him, but because of him. Samantha smirked, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Ouch. So you're saying I'm ruining America one punchline at a time?" Jonathan didn't blink. "I'm saying your punchlines only hit one type of person, and people are starting to notice." A wave of discomfort rolled across the studio. It wasn't anger, it was realization, the kind that makes people sit straighter in their seats. Samantha leaned forward, trying to reclaim the upper hand. You think you're speaking for the forgotten, the unheard, right? You, an actor whose most famous role is, well, I'm speaking for the people who've been laughed at for having conviction. Jonathan shot back. People who've been told by late-night TV that they're naive, uncool, out of touch, when all they want is to see genuine stories, find meaning, and not be insulted by millionaires with teleprompters. The crowd went quiet. Samantha's face shifted. This wasn't a monologue anymore. This was a rebuttal she hadn't rehearsed for. Jonathan's voice softened just slightly, not weaker, but more intentional. You have influence, Samantha, whether you pretend not to or not. And if you use that influence to belittle authentic expression, you're not doing comedy, you're doing damage. He looked into the camera. But tonight, that ends with me. The studio's silence cracked with a single clap, then another, then a rising wave. Not thunderous, but real. And for the first time in a long time, Samantha Bee didn't have the last word. Samantha forced a laugh, the kind that comes not from humor, but from habit. Wow, she said, looking to the audience like they might save her. Jonathan Roumie, everybody here to remind us that late-night satire is eroding our capacity for earnestness. A few chuckles emerged, but they were weak, more nervous than amused. Jonathan smiled slightly, crossing his arms, not eroding it, just helping to make everything feel hollow. A small ripple moved through the crowd. Someone in the back let out a low whistle. Samantha tapped her index finger on the desk, clearly agitated. Okay, so what's your plan? You show up here, roast me in my own studio, and then what? Go viral for being the actor who out-talked the host? He didn't hesitate. If people want to call it that, I'll live with it. But I came here because someone needs to say it out loud. People like you use influence to punch down and call it wit. You ridicule earnestness, genuine belief, traditional values, then get confused when people stop laughing. Samantha leaned back, letting the words hang there. Jonathan wasn't finished. You say I'm young, inexperienced, naive. Sure, but I'm also paying attention. And I know when I'm being laughed at, not because I said something dumb, but because I dared to exist in a world you don't control. Silence. No one reached for a cue card. The producer in the wings froze, unsure whether to signal a break. Samantha looked away from him, rubbing her face. So what? Are we not allowed to make jokes anymore? Jonathan tilted his head. Make jokes, just not at the expense of people who are tired of being your punchlines. You call me a parody. Look around, Samantha. What happens when the punchline starts punching back? The audience let out a sharp, oh, not mocking, but stunned. Jonathan adjusted his seat. You mock people like me because you think we're easy targets. But tonight you learned something. We don't flinch and we don't forget. A slow clap began, then another, louder this time. A real reaction, not forced, not cued. Genuine tension was melting into respect. Samantha blinked hard, tapping her fingers on the desk again, this time slower. And in that moment, it was clear. This was no longer her show. The cameras were still rolling, but the usual polish of the show had worn off. The stage lights felt harsher now, not because they were brighter, but because no one was smiling anymore. Not Samantha, not the crew, not even the audience. Jonathan leaned forward, his voice steady and deliberate. You know what bothers people the most? It's not that you mock them, it's that you pretend it's brave. Samantha opened her mouth, but nothing came out. He continued, you sit up here and take shots at sincere artists, earnest audiences, people of faith, and then pat yourself on the back like you just stood up to a dictator. A few heads in the crowd nodded. Samantha tried to shift the tone. So what should I start doing? Skits about indie films and spiritual journeys? No, Jonathan replied. You should start listening. She scoffed. To you? To the people who don't watch your show, he said, because they're the ones paying the price for the policies and people you defend between punchlines. The studio held its breath. No cue card could recover this. Samantha glanced off camera, silently asking for help. None came. Jonathan's voice dropped, softer now, but sharper. You know, Samantha, I expected to be interrupted. I expected condescension, but I didn't expect silence. She looked at him. Silence? Yeah. He said, because somewhere in that silence, there's a realization that you're not untouchable, that even a so-called religious actor can walk into your house and make you look unprepared. That last word landed hard. Samantha's usual smirk didn't return. He sat back, letting it all breathe. The moment wasn't about scoring points anymore. It was about exposure. He hadn't come to match Samantha's sarcasm. He came to outclass it. "You call this comedy?" he said finally, gesturing around the set. But tonight it looked a lot like running out of ideas. The audience didn't erupt. They didn't cheer. They just stared with the kind of attention even Samantha Bee wasn't used to. The teleprompter sat idle. The producer in the wings motioned, but Samantha ignored it. She wasn't ready to cut to commercial. Not yet. She needed to regain control, but the usual tricks weren't working. She straightened her papers, buying time. "You really think you're winning hearts and minds like this?" Jonathan didn't blink. "I'm not here to win hearts. I'm here to expose minds that pretend to be open, but shut down the moment they hear something inconvenient." The tension thickened. The audience wasn't sure whether to laugh, clap, or just keep watching, but they weren't tuning out. Samantha forced a chuckle. "Look, Jonathan, I'm just a host telling jokes. You're acting like I'm shaping the future of cinema." "You're not," he said calmly. "But you're shaping how people see the ones who do." Samantha paused, caught off guard by the precision of that reply. Jonathan leaned forward again, elbows resting lightly on his knees. "You claim to challenge, but you never punch both ways. You dress up your own biases in a laugh track. You claim to speak truth to power, but only if that power comes from a certain kind of studio or worldview." Somewhere in the audience, someone clapped once, then twice, then silence again. Samantha tried another angle. "You think I'm the enemy?" He shook his head. "No, I think you're a mirror, and I'm just holding up another one." Boom! It hit harder than any insult. For a moment, Samantha dropped the act. She rubbed her temples, looked down at the desk, then looked up. Not with defiance, but something closer to vulnerability. "You've got guts, I'll give you that," she said quietly. Jonathan's reply was soft too. "No, I've got a generation behind me that's tired of being told their convictions are punchlines when they're the ones looking for genuine connection." Silence, pure, earnest, electric. Even the studio lights seemed dimmer in that moment, as if everything around them had finally gone still. And for the first time all night, Samantha Bee had no words. Samantha sat back, shoulders no longer squared. She looked less like the host of a hit show and more like someone trying to find her footing on unfamiliar ground. The audience saw it. Jonathan saw it. And for a brief moment, even she seemed to admit it. Jonathan's tone softened, not because he was yielding, but because he had already won the round. "You know," he said, "when I told people I was coming on your show, they warned me, said I'd be mocked, edited, maybe even ambushed." Samantha looked up. "But I came anyway," he continued, "because I think deep down, even through all the jokes and smirks, you actually care. I think you want to believe what you're doing matters." Samantha blinked. Her instinct was to deflect, but she didn't. Jonathan leaned in. "So here's the truth. You have reach, Samantha. You shape culture whether you like it or not. And somewhere between the celebrity guests and punchlines, there's an opportunity. You could use this platform to challenge everyone, not just the people it's safe to criticize." He let the words breathe. "That's not weakness," he added. "That's real comedy when you're brave enough to go after both sides." A beat of silence passed. Samantha cleared her throat. "I'm not sure what to say to that." "You don't have to say anything," Jonathan replied. "You just have to decide what kind of voice you want to be when the laughter fades." The crowd didn't clap this time. They didn't have to. The silence was the applause, thick, reflective, and rare for late-night TV. Then finally Samantha leaned forward. "Well, that was something." Jonathan nodded. "It was honest." She chuckled just a little, which is rare around here. He stood, smoothed his blazer. Then maybe this was overdue. And with that, he turned toward the curtain. But even as he walked away, the air he left behind wasn't silence anymore. It was a weight Samantha wasn't used to feeling, and a weight the audience wouldn't soon forget. By the time Jonathan stepped out of the studio and into the brisk night air, his phone was already buzzing. Dozens of notifications, mentions, clips. The segment hadn't even aired in full, but word had spread. Something big had just happened on national television. Inside the control room, a stunned silence lingered. The production team replayed the footage, unsure if they just filmed a PR nightmare or a viral sensation. "He dismantled her," one of the assistant producers whispered. "Should we cut it down?" another asked. The executive producer paused. "No, we air it raw. It's the most real thing we've had all year." Meanwhile, on social media, hashtags began to climb the charts. Hashtag Be Silenced, Roumie, Unfiltered, Late Night. Reality check clips spread like wildfire. The exchange was dissected by pundits on all sides. Voices praising integrity lauded Jonathan for holding his ground. Satirical commentators begrudgingly admitted he had struck a nerve, even if they didn't agree with his perspective. But it was the independent voices, the ones tired of all extremes, who carried the moment furthest. They saw something rare, a talented actor walking into enemy territory, unflinching, articulate, and unafraid. Meanwhile, Samantha sat alone in her dressing room, rewatching the footage on a monitor. She ran a hand through her hair and let out a long breath. "Damn," she muttered. He came to play. She wasn't used to being outmaneuvered, especially not on her own stage. But tonight was different. It wasn't just that Jonathan had countered her jokes. It was that he had peeled them back, revealed the hollow space beneath them, and asked, "Now what?" Elsewhere, Jonathan sat in the back of a black SUV, scrolling through reactions. Some were brutal, some were brilliant, all were loud. His aide looked over. "You realize you just walked into the lion's den and came out with the spotlight, right?" Jonathan didn't answer immediately. He just stared at the screen, reading one comment over and over again. He didn't just win the moment, he redefined it. He looked up, and we're just getting started. Morning hit like a thunderclap. By 7:00 a.m., the clip had already reached over 12 million views across platforms. National headlines blared variations of the same theme. Jonathan Roumie turns tables on Samantha Bee. Late night no longer safe. Talk show takedown. Roumie dominates. Bee retreats. Comedy meets conviction. Earnest actor rewrites the rules. The story wasn't just viral, it was seismic. Cable news picked it up. CNN ran a segment titled Unscripted and Undeniable. Entertainment Tonight called it a cultural shift. Even MSNBC, usually dismissive, admitted this wasn't just celebrity theater, it was a cultural moment. Meanwhile, in college dorm rooms, middle America diners, newsroom group chats, and studio executive briefings, everyone was talking about him. Not just what he said, but how he said it. Jonathan's team scrambled to manage the attention. Interview requests flooded in. Editorials were being drafted. Podcasts wanted exclusive takes. Every publicist in Hollywood was suddenly asking the same question. Who booked him? But it wasn't just admiration. Critics attacked hard. He ambushed her. He played the victim. He's just a rehearsed puppet. Jonathan didn't flinch, because this wasn't about applause. It was about truth cutting through static. He released a short statement on social media that morning. Last night wasn't about me or Samantha. It was about pushing back against an entertainment culture that prefers mockery over meaningful conversation. I showed up because people like me are told to stay quiet. We won't. 10 words into that post, and it was already being quoted on TV. Meanwhile, Samantha Bee's team met in silence. She walked in, tossed her phone on the table and said, "Book him again." Her writers looked stunned. "Seriously?" one asked. Samantha shrugged. "He challenged me, and he beat me. But if the show's about anything real anymore, he deserves the mic." That decision, reckless to some, redemptive to others, signaled something new. Jonathan hadn't just gone viral, he had become inevitable. A week had passed since the segment aired, but the conversation hadn't slowed. In fact, it had evolved. Opinion pieces filled the digital landscape. The New York Times asked whether late-night shows had lost their cultural edge. Entertainment Weekly declared Jonathan the future of nuanced celebrity interviews. Politico wrote, "He didn't just survive a progressive arena, he flipped it." Jonathan had since appeared on 2 major podcasts, been invited to 3 network roundtables, and most unexpectedly received an open invitation from Samantha Bee's team to return, not as a sparring partner, as a guest. But he wasn't rushing back. He knew better than to overplay a win. Timing mattered. So he waited. He listened. He watched how people responded, not just to what he said, but how he said it. Calm, unshaken, precise. People weren't used to seeing that from someone so prominent in a specific niche, so underestimated, and so composed. One evening, he walked through D.C., coat collar flipped up against the wind, phone tucked away. He passed a group of college students debating foreign aid and gas prices. One of them pointed and said, "That's him." He turned. They didn't ask for a selfie. They didn't even approach. They just nodded. A different kind of recognition. Quiet respect. Meanwhile, late night was changing. Writer rooms buzzed with new rules. Avoid reductive political traps. Vet guests better. Cut the canned applause. But deep down, they knew something else. They couldn't fake control anymore. Not after Jonathan. His appearance had exposed something raw. A public that craved authenticity over theatrics. Someone had finally broken through the irony curtain. And it wasn't a comedian. It was an actor whose conviction shone through. And as he stood at the edge of the Lincoln Memorial that night, He looked out at the lights of the Capitol and whispered to himself, "One moment can start a movement." He wasn't just remembered, he was recalibrating the rules. And the next time he took the mic, no one, left, right, or center, would underestimate him again. "You brought me here for entertainment. You thought I'd be overwhelmed, outmatched, or maybe even humiliated. But what you didn't count on was conviction. You underestimated what it means to speak with clarity in a culture obsessed with noise. You mocked, you smirked, you tried to turn me into a punchline. But I'm not here for laughs. I'm here because the truth doesn't need applause. It needs courage. So go ahead, roll the credits, cue the music, dim the lights. But just remember, this stage isn't yours anymore. It belongs to whoever's bold enough to stand on it without flinching." Tonight wasn't about winning a moment. It was about shifting the ground beneath it. And guess what? You just felt it crack.